All right, guys, it's been a minute. Let me outline something for you that two case studies that I had recently that were quite interesting, especially as they came on within about a week and a half of each other. So let me outline this. So the first case is a 53-year-old woman who has paranoid schizophrenia. Okay. And this is a telehealth appointment, and I'm not actually talking to her. I'm talking to the daughter and the husband in this situation. And for about 20 years now, she's had like kind of paranoia, irrational thoughts, things like some kind of persecution complex at the government, or even some family members sometimes, or even anyone that's around, sort of tangential within the family circle or something. This constant fear of her family's going to be harmed by these outside forces, whoever it is. Could be corporations. It's always somebody. It's always something, right? And then, so she has these paranoid thoughts, these irrational thoughts, and she even will ask people on the TV for help. The TV will be playing and they'll be watching TV, and she'll be talking to the TV, asking personalities on the TV to help her to protect her family. Okay, there's visual hallucinations, audio hallucinations, kind of some of the standard stuff around that we consider around schizophrenia. So the onset had come about 2 decades before that, with the loss of a job that was quite traumatizing for her, the way that she lost the job and all that. It was a big stressor for her. It really rocked her world in a way. And then she's kind of home and idle, and then she, in quick succession, lost two close friends of hers, and there was a death in the family, all within a fairly short period of time. And the death in the family was especially difficult because she blamed herself, which her family says was completely unnecessary. She had nothing to do with it, and yet she felt that she could have done something or should have done something that would have prevented that. And then there was just family drama going on, and they said that this really seemed to be kind of the beginning, because she was sort of at home, kind of doing nothing and just ruminating and just overthinking things, and just taking on all of this stress. And they said she just kind of did a downward spiral after that. It really, everything kind of fell apart. And then all this stuff started up. Okay. So some background symptoms for her, kind of what her day to day looks like. She is very agitated, and in this case, agitation being sort of a physical symptom, meaning she can't sit still. She's constantly moving, pacing around the house, and then talking to herself and talking about these sort of scenarios in which her family could be hurt and the different people that are involved in these kinds of things, always with this kind of speech. She wakes up basically around 6 a.m., paces the house for about 4 hours, just muttering to herself all of these delusions that she has. And then she does this until about 10 a.m., at which point she takes a nap. She's a very restless sleeper, a very light sleeper. And the reason that she sleeps so light, according to the family, was that there's really this kind of hypervigilance about harm coming to her family from these outside forces. So every little thing, even when there's nothing, she's constantly waking up kind of in a fright, worried that something is happening to her family. Again, from these outside forces. Okay. So no night sweats, doesn't seem to be running hot, just very light sleeper. Okay. She also has a lot of gas, some irritability. She can definitely get a bit irritable if pressed too much about different things, but no violence or anything like that. No physical anything in that sense. So she does have the gas, kind of these digestive issues. Sugar, they notice, makes her far worse. Actually, she eats sugar and kind of really falls into it much worse. She's quite prone to gaining weight. She zones out quite a bit, just kind of sits, and like she'll have these episodes where rather than pacing around, she just kind of sits around, just kind of spacing out. You almost can't even talk to her, because her brain just is kind of almost shuts off. So it's this very high level of activity and then at other times where she just is not even there somehow. Prior to all of this coming about, her family says that she was just about the sweetest lady that you could want to meet. Very accommodating, very nurturing, always taking care of everyone around her. But, taking care of people around her to the point of not ever being able to say no to anybody, really putting herself out constantly, very conflict avoidant, but then at the same time taking on other people's stress. So anytime anyone ever had anything going on, she would take that on and just worry about it and think about it. And, so it was even prior to all of this, she had this background of worrying, basically almost to the point of anxiety, you know, worry to the point that it was kind of messing up her life, really. Uh, so this is kind of her background situation, and this is, these are the remarkable symptoms in my mind. There wasn't a lot of irritability. Her body type is more on the prone to overweight side. Not a lot of like sort of yin deficiency kind of sleep issues per se. So I diagnosed her as kind of being spleen deficient, as kind of the primary sort of constitutional sort of background physiology. Then you get into what we consider sort of heart heat, which for me is kind of the can't sit still, the sort of the agitation, constant movement, constant talking, the light sleep, kind of talking to herself all the time. The talking to herself all the time could be sourced in a lot of stomach heat, but her hunger is not particularly high. There doesn't seem to be anything going on in the stomach channel as far as skin stuff, these sort of things. Not like a ravenous eater or something like this. I wasn't so sure that stomach heat was so much an issue here. Tongue actually is not particularly red. It's more, they took a picture of the tongue and got it for me, and it was more kind of swollen and pale, in fact, kind of damp looking to me. Not a thick coat or anything like that. So the basic diagnosis here would be spleen deficiency as sort of the constitutional background, and there is those symptoms showing that. Then the second thing would really be this heart heat. Then the third thing really is what we in Chinese medicine would sort of consider this insubstantial phlegm. Right? So here what we have, I think, is what's interesting about schizophrenia is like she'll have a symptom like, for example, where they'll be driving down the street and she'll be looking at license plates and making information out of license plate numbers. And all the license plates that she observes are somehow about her delusion. They somehow fit into the delusion. And what's interesting there is that, you know, if I'm in the world and I'm sort of just paying attention to things, I can take in a lot of information, and something might seem to be about me. Like if I catch somebody looking at me funny, like they're giving me a funny look, and maybe I think, oh, maybe they think I look weird, or maybe they think I'm strange, or maybe they think I look nice, or so, whatever, then it could be about me. But there's going to be evidence, whether real or not, there's going to be some reasonable evidence that I might say to somebody like, "Oh, I just thought they were looking at me funny, and then I just thought maybe they think I'm weird," and then I forget about it. I don't spend any time thinking about it outside of that. Whereas if I'm taking in information while driving, I don't assume any of that is about me. I don't assume that the cadence of the green and red lights has anything to do with signaling about me, about my situation. I don't assume that license plates have anything to do with me. It's just not part of my assumption process here. But what is interesting is that for her and for paranoid schizophrenia in general, that this is in fact the case, that people take in information and they connect with it, right? Which is an interesting thing to do. I mean, this is something that we expect sort of the heart to do, the fire element to do, right? Because just in a very general way, the fire element is how we connect. If you see someone across the bar and you feel like you have chemistry with them, that's your fire element, and you want to connect with them, or you do connect with them, or whatever. That's sort of fire, the desire to connect, and the the fruition of connection, the actualization of connection. This really for me is fire. Now, just as an aside, I think that the way you handle that interaction is more of a Woody kind of thing. So you see someone cute at the bar or whatever, wherever you are, and you want to approach them, and then you do approach them. That's like fire. But then what do you say and how do you talk to them? That's more like Woody stuff. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that the very fact that a paranoid schizophrenic person is in a sense hyper connecting to the information around them may be indicative of this kind of heart excess. It's a way to describe this kind of heart excess. If fire is our desire to connect and our initiation of connection, then maybe this hyper connecting to the world around us is sort of a heart thing. So you just start thinking in general about insecure people who read into things incorrectly and stuff, and the degree to which this might have to do with fire, this almost like an anxiety, right? And anxiety being a heart thing, and these kinds of things, reading into things more than they should. Now, that's not paranoid schizophrenia, but when we are talking about schizophrenia, then suddenly it's quantitatively different, at least. There's a lot more of this hyper connection going on. And so that to me is this heart thing that's going on. The second thing that of course is going on here is this question of phlegm. That's where the irrationality comes out. That's where the delusion comes out. That's where the hallucinations come out. That's the phlegm aspect, right? So it's just a way of parsing these things out a bit. Now, the second case was actually another schizophrenia case. I got two cases in the course of about a week and a half or whatever it was. And, clinic is like that, isn't it? You get one thing and you get three of them. I'm waiting for the third one. Actually, funny enough, the third one's coming. I was talking with a patient, and I happened to kind of mention, she was like, what kind of things do you treat? And I was like, oh, well, that's funny because I just recently treated two schizophrenia patients. And she looks at me and she goes, well, that's really strange because I've been thinking about this person that I was hoping I could refer to. It's actually a child. I don't know how old, child, but with paranoid thoughts. And it was like, oh, there's my third. It's like things come in threes somehow. The clinic is very weird like that. You notice that? So the second case, though, is very similar in the sense that it has all the hallmarks of a paranoid schizophrenia. But what's interesting, the big difference here for me is that whereas the first case was really kind of the body type was all spleen deficiency, the personality stuff is all spleen deficiency to me, conflict avoidant and trouble saying no to others and very sweet and nurturing. It's all very earthy kind of stuff to me. The second patient had all the hallmarks of paranoid schizophrenia, but was irritable, was anger issues constantly, very wiry body type. All of these things that for me were kind of the cardinal signs of a Woody type, wiry pulse and all of this stuff, right? But had all of these other things. The heart heat was there, the phlegm is there with the irrational thoughts, those things, the delusions and the scenarios and all these things. But I thought what was so interesting in this situation was that the earth person, the spleen deficiency person, the person with that in their background, their entire scenario building situation, the paranoia that they had was worrying about harm coming to their family, to her family. She worried about the government, about fringe political groups and paramilitary groups coming to harm her family. That is the entirety of her process. She never thinks about herself in that situation. None of this stuff is really about her. It's about harm to her family. But what's interesting about the liver type is the liver type is only thinking about herself. She creates all of the same scenarios, the government and paramilitary groups and extra governmental groups and whoever it is, but she worries about harm to herself, which, I'm a Woody type, so I don't want to insult myself, but there's a selfishness to Woody people, kind of that is a little bit inherent to the Woody type that you certainly don't see in the Earth type, at least in distinction to the Earth type, relative to the Earth type. The Woody type is much more genuinely insecure, so that's why they tend to be sort of spiritual seekers, because they're more about themselves because they're trying to grow. They're trying to learn what it means to be happy, whereas Earth people are kind of happy, sort of more in their core, whereas Woody people I find are more insecure. They're seekers, but they're seekers because of a core kind of instability. They don't know themselves as well as an earthy person does, at least relative. So then there's a selfishness. And in this situation, it was very poignant in that the earth person had all of these delusions and scenarios and was worried about her family, whereas the other woman is woody by nature and only seems to worry about herself. She has a family, but everything is about harm coming to her. They're coming to kill me. They're trying to poison me. They're trying to get information out of me because I'm somehow different. So these two very different sort of looks at what is generally considered the same disorder, the same syndrome, the same thing, and yet not the same. You see, so this was very interesting. So I treated just with herbs. I treated the earth type, and the formula was basically, what is it? Ditan tang. It's a spleen tonic with some phlegm clears, and like sort of insubstantial phlegm clears and some heart heat clears and stuff like Ditan tang. And if I recall, I left it pretty much unmodified. It's been a minute, but the patient is quite compliant with taking it. I forget what dose of medication she takes that basically doesn't really do much for her, and she doesn't take it a lot of the times because she's quite forgetful with it, and then the family tries to push it on her and she resists because it's all a plot. Anyways, so really, in a way, this was an unadulterated, to some degree, an unadulterated look at not such severe schizophrenia, but enough that her life is consumed by it. And the results have been quite remarkable. Even within a week, she was sleeping in. So rather than waking up at 6 a.m. and pacing the house and muttering to herself, she was sleeping deeper and sleeping in till about 8 a.m. and then waking up and just kind of going about her day without all of the pacing around the house and the muttering. So she was just within a week, she was already just calmed down. She wasn't completely lucid in that sense where she was like back, it wasn't like that. But within then, by the second and third weeks, the husband was starting to have more normal conversations with her where she was kind of back. And then she would kind of go in and out. So if she didn't, for some reason, get enough sleep, it could be a problem. If she sort of eats the wrong things, it could be a problem. So what they're now learning is what is it that causes her to kind of fall back into it. Because for her, the medications don't really do anything. They make her feel terrible. So she's really trying to be unmedicated, or the family's trying to help her be unmedicated. And the herbs seem to be, to some degree, at least in this case, a replacement for that. Now, of course, I didn't tell them anything about, oh, this is a replacement for your medications, of course, right? But this is kind of how it sort of worked out. And she just week to week has sort of continued to improve, though, not enough to be out on her own or anything like that. But it's been now about 3 weeks. So, maybe I'll put some updates in as these things progress. She's been quite compliant with the herbs, and I've been very happy and gratified with the progress. She's just more calm in the house. She still has the delusions. She still worries about stuff, but she's more relaxed. She's not pacing so much. She's not so agitated all the time. She can sit still and do more things, and she's not zoning out so much. She's not herself yet. But there's been moments where the husband said, "No, we actually had a reasonably normal conversation, recently." And then she kind of slips back into it. So hopefully over time this just continues a steady improvement around all of this. The Woody type has been interesting. She's been more difficult to get her to take the herbs. She's far more suspicious, a bit more difficult, a bit more of a severe case. What's interesting here is if she takes her medication, she feels pretty good, actually. So this is what's interesting. She gets really, really tired. But if she takes her medication, she actually can function. But the thing is the minute she feels better on the medication, her brain starts to say, oh, maybe you're cured and you're fine and you don't need your medication. Or if other things creep up, like she's not sleeping well and stuff, then even if she's taking the medication, she'll start to convince herself that it's somehow, not good for her, right? So the delusions will start to kick in even when she's taking it. But generally, if she takes it, she's fine. So that was an interesting conversation because the earthy one, there was no talking to her at the time. It was just, I had a separate conversation with family. Whereas with the second one, I had a direct conversation with her and she was incredibly lucid about her situation, where she was saying, I kind of like, I know what the experience is, but I can't control it. It's so all consuming and convincing that I can fall into it and not even realize that I'm falling into it. I don't have that self control to be able to tell myself, oh, wait a minute, I'm falling into this and not coming out. So she's been a little bit harder to get to take her herbs. She generally, she'll be a little bit more suspicious about it. She's a little less consistent. So I haven't been as happy, and it's been a shorter period of time, but I haven't been as happy with the results there. So I'll keep you guys updated on the second one. But she actually likes the herbs, when she takes them, and she says she feels better. But again, so as I get updates, I'll update you guys on that one. But anyways, I thought this was very interesting to have these two cases come in, two women, paranoid schizophrenia, a lot of the same symptoms, but this core thing that differentiates the two, it was too striking not to bring it up to you guys. So anyways, take it easy, guys. It's been a little bit, sorry, but I hope you guys are all doing well out there, happy and thriving. Okay? All right, take it easy, guys. Bye.
Life is unpredictable, but how you prepare for the unexpected shouldn't be. Take ownership of your life planning with Policy Genius to help your loved ones have a financial safety net in case something happens to you. Whether to cover debts and routine expenses or even invest the money and earn interest over time. With Policy Genius, finding and buying life insurance is simple. You can compare quotes from top insurers and could find coverage that fits your needs and your budget. Plus, they offer life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. It's an easy way to feel good about and plan for the future. No wonder Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. Don't wait for life to make other plans. Protect your family today. Head to PolicyGenius.com to compare top-rated life insurance policies, get your lowest quote, and make a smart move in under 10 minutes. That's PolicyGenius.com.